because they said we could bill it over 4 years
Yeah.
or 1 year or 2 years or whatever.
Well, how do they bill us for the 1,200 right now?
That's a one-time fee each year.
Right, but when do they bill us for that?
You know, is it in spring?
It's, when there's updates, it's usually twice a year, I think, they do.
Yeah.
When they do the updates.
Yeah,
It's
usually we have a
semi-annual.
summer and
Okay.
winter.
Any further questions?
Are we saying that we, if all 7 of the board members and the 3 administrators wanted to look at one time, we could all get online and get into it?
Yep.
Okay, so we would be given a code number or
Yep,
whatever?
a password, or you could put it on the web and open it up to the public. It depends, I think it's about a 50-50 split.
Can you do both? Or is
Well-
there an extra charge for that?
No, there's no charge for that, it's just a password.
It would be, good. I mean, I think maybe on our, well, we talked about it.
Yeah.
Public office.
I'll do more
Website,
research on
play
that.
around with this, yeah.
I think I think Wakefield has it as a public domain.
Yeah.
And talk to Kathy.
You know, it seems like that would be a good idea.
I agree.
Just speaking out, and also our entire staff could get online and look it up, and that might even save grievances.
Yeah.
Or something like a potential grievance, where people would see it
Well,
in advance, that would save them the time, you know, of
Yeah.
complaining on something if they saw the way that
Right,
it is.
exactly.
Any further questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Motion to approve Liz Bowl overnight trip to Marquette on March 12th.
And I included all the paperwork.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Sherry,
I'll second.
second by Mary. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Motion to approve overnight band trip.
Again, all the information is included.
Hang on, you know how to order.
Which one is it now? Is it?
That would be Mr. Boniface.
I know, but Milwaukee or
Yes,
Marquette?
He's got
yes,
two.
one to Milwaukee for the performing, the Marcus Center Performing Arts, and the other was for the state solo ensembles.
So we approve them both at once?
You can, yes.
Okay.
I'll make that motion to approve both of Mr. Boniface's requests.
Motion by Al,
Second.
second by Mary. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Motion to approve overnight Heat Club trip. Barb.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Sherry,
Support.
support by Beth. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Motion to appoint the following people to the Pairing Sharing Ad hoc Committee. Julie Tricka, Richard Matrella, Brian Anderson, John Fellow, and Dave Ozier.
And Deanna Schwartz, she sent in a letter today, so Deanna Schwartz.
So you'll have 6.
Now
Yes,
this is,
and Beth Steiger is gonna be the board liaison.
this is Richard Matrella Senior.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Al, Annette, support by Annette. Sherry, I'll give it straight, yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Motion to approve the 2014-15 amended budget, including athletics, food service, and general.
We can go through them first if you would like. We'll start with the food service, the one page. The big change or the big adjustment was the MIP, the amount of $6,500. That was just a mistake when the budget was built in June. We're correcting it, and then there's the resale supplies. That is for the pop and water and juice machine at the high school. If you took out, again, I know we talked about this in June, but if you took out the sick day payout and the FICA for that payout, the food service would be in a phenomenal condition, so. Any questions on the food service budget?
See, the cook the books. No, Tim is doing a great job. It's so fun going down to the cafeteria. The kids are they just love being down there, they thank him for a great lunch, and,
Do they get
Paula
enough food?
Barbacovi's down there, pardon?
Are they getting enough food?
They're getting more than enough food. We follow all the
We're
state
getting the required
guidelines,
amount by the state government.
federal government,
Federal
actually.
Federal government, excuse
Yeah.
me, Mr. Obama.
And then if there's any food left over, the kids can come back and get seconds. It never goes to waste.
Where we don't run out, and we're not short of food supply, as I see in the paper.
Doing a very good job.
Any questions on the food service?
Congratulations, Tim, good job.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, on the athletics, on the revenue, the big increase is the volleyball. That's because we hosted the districts this year. With that, there's also an increase in the expenses because of the additional expenses we had with the district tournament. Football revenue, the gate is higher than we budgeted. If you look at the payment for Wakefield Marnesco, it's reduced. That is because we take the expenses minus the amount of revenue and split the difference. So when the revenue is up, the amount that we each have to pay is less, so. And then again, it's just kind of minimal changes with the exception of volleyball that had, those other expenses. The all sports, when we built the budget, we were looking at sharing an athletic director with Wakefield. That's what we built the budget on. That didn't happen, so that adjustment is because of that fact. Any other questions, or any questions on the athletics? Okay. On the general fund, let me just state on the very back page of the detail of the budget, I'm gonna start with that. It says, at the bottom, it says audit revenue. It should be 2013-14 audit revenue. Then you've got the budget, the fund balance, and then 2013-14 audit expenses. And maybe that will clarify. I tried to make this a little bit easier to understand than what we've done in the past. And then you can see what the fund balance of the auditors, from the audit report, and then the amount that's assigned for the fund balance to pay off the long-term debt, and the available fund balance. Okay? Going through the detail, the local revenue sources, $6,000 in changes to the good. State sources, that is all the known as of December 31st. You'll see a big change in the MIP flow through, and the MIP one-time liability is about halfway through the page. It's about $95,000. Unfortunately, that doesn't help the bottom line because there's also the expense of that. What it is the state of Michigan pays us, we cut a check and we pay it to retirement. So it's an in and out account. There's no benefit to us. The special ed grant was adjusted. That is, the state reimburses us, and the year they reimburse us, we have less expenses. Therefore, the amount that we're receiving this year is less than budgeted. Title I, Title II grant money is up, about $18,000. The expenses will also correspond with that. Any questions on the revenue?
How's the best practice company? The year before we had 23,000.
Yep, it's less we're getting per student. It's $50 per student.
51, and next year's going down to 20.
And we have until June 30th to apply for the money. Last year it was like March 3rd or March 31st or something, so it's, we're keeping an eye on it. Next year though, there's less requirements. It's like 2 out of 3 you have to meet or something, but.
But just a little thing on the budget, you're gonna see where the governor is gonna put all this money on the foundation, but then he takes it from the categorical.
Right.
So technically, there's some schools that are gonna get less money in the long run because sleight of hand.
And also, the effect of the sales tax referendum is also unknown. There's a lot of publicity out there for and against it, so make sure everybody reads their information carefully. All right, on expenses, elementary instruction, you'll see the increase. That is due to the raise, the 2% raise half step, and also the new teacher that we hired. When I did the budget, it was done on BA1, and she, I believe, was BA5 when she started. The MIP, again, that goes back to that flow-through. You'll see that change in all the different budgets. That's because of the flow-through. FICA changes because of the salary. High school, a little bit of a change there, not much. Again, step and salary, the raise. MIP and FICA. And then the bigger, the dual enrollment online course is the $5,000 addition. Any questions on elementary or high school yet? Okay.
How many kids we got keeping doing
I think 8 kids just in calculus alone, and we have 1 in nutrition. Yeah, I think that's 9, roughly 10 kids.
I have the bill, I can look that up for you.
I was just curious.
Then in the special ed, you'll see the decrease in the salaries and the aides, spending less than what was budgeted. At risk, just kind of a flip-flop between the teacher's salary and the aide salary. Title I and Title II, those changes were due to the increase in the money received. You'll see the $5,000 in supplies for Title I. We are looking at getting smart boards for the teachers, laptops for the teachers. I believe there's a conference that our teachers will be going to, so that's the increase. The guidance counselor, you'll see a decrease in salary. That's because 2 of her hours per day are being charged to high school, because she is teaching 2 courses now. And is there any, I mean, do you want me to go through the other items at this point? The big one, we'll skip to operations and maintenance. The big one is the land and building repairs. We had spent we had spent 17,000, we had budgeted 15. I added another 17,000 because of all the boiler work we had to have done the last month and a half. The roof work at the Washington school. It's costly. And Beth brought up the transportation, if I had budgeted enough for labor and repairs. I may not have. When I did the budget, I thought I did, and then we get the bills, and we're gonna be close. We may have to add before the year's end.
We spend, what, $6,500 on the bus?
Yeah. Plus this, there's,
Oh, it was about 8 was too much.
so. And 12, we got a new transmission. There's some kind of a component that they had to replace, and they got the part in. So it's not that we don't have the money to repair the buses, it's the fact that we have to wait for the parts to get here, and then we have to wait for C&M to be able to do the work on the buses. So, we hope to have all our buses back on the road by the end of this week.
Wasn't it our tradition in prior years, back in the 90s and early 2000s, that we'd get a new bus every 3 years? When is the last bus we got, 2007?
Yeah, probably, I think so. And that was with the bond, or with, we had done what did we buy that one? I don't remember how we purchased that one. I think that one was
2007.
for the bond, yeah. The other thing I wanted to go through is the technology. You'll see there's supplies of $4,000, new money, and then new computers. Those new computers, that was the Chromebooks that were purchased for the Washington school, and that was the donation from the Summerlin Trust. And then the supplies, we buy the different supplies, and the PTO pays for it through their different fundraising, but that's how we show the donations and then the expenses. So if you go back to the summary sheet, you'll see the fund balance of we're anticipating a fund balance of June 30th of $201,000. Any questions?
Minus what we.
Minus the
assigned.
130.
Yes, that is the total minus the 130 that we have assigned.
Thank you.
Any questions for Chris? Now we need a motion to accept the report.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Beth, support. further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Motion to approve the REMC internet bid, Chris.
All right, we can actually do G and H as one motion. This is the annual, it's USF funding. We had to put out the RFPs, get bids on our long-distance phone service. We did not have to do the local phone service this year because it was a 3-year contract last year that you signed, but we have long distance and then we have the internet connection. We received one bid on the long-distance phone service, it was AT&T. However, USF allows us to continue with our current carrier if it's cheaper, and it is. AT&T would have been $200 or more a month, and Birch is less than $100. So my recommendation is that we stay with Birch for the long distance. REMC was by far the cheapest. I think it was $1,400, and the next one, with that, we had to do the response to our RFPs. We also had to consider the statewide bids under TRIG. So we actually had like 4 different bids to review, and REMC was the lowest of all of them. Plus, there was no installation charges or setup fees, so REMC was the cheapest. So I am recommending to the board that you approve the USF bid for Birch for long distance service and REMC for internet connection.
That's $1,400 a month.
I'll make that motion.
That's, excuse me, that is pre-USF money.
Yeah.
The discount.
I'll second.
Motion by Annette, second by Sherry. Any further discussion? All
Just comment that it's nice to go with the low bids, and I think REMC has been our provider for many, many years. They stay there, we know the people, and they're also the lowest. I'm disappointed that AT&T, my carrier, is charging what it is, but Birch apparently is excellent. We want to go with the lowest money for the same quality.
We haven't had any problems with Birch or
No.
anything like that,
No.
that's what I mean, so, yeah.
And then I can, we will vote on here, that I can tell you on category 2.
We have a motion and support. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
These two services